Hi everybody, Deb Tucker here from Studio 180 Design. Today I'm going to work with you on learning how to create what we call a capped 60 unit. This is a unit that you can team up with those other basic units that you build using the Star 60 tool. It's a simple triangle shape. It's built with a triangle and a trapezoid, and you know, the sizes that you work with are going to be in sync with the same sizes for your companion triangles and your Star 60 triangles and your hexagon pieces that you have instructions for when you buy the tool. So to begin, the first decision you'll need to make is what size unit you want to build. There are 17 different sizes in total, just like the Star 60 units. The second thing you're going to want to decide is what colors you want. You're going to need two different colors, two different strips, one to create the triangles, one to create the trapezoids. And you know, one of the things that I always do on my technique sheets is once I'm making the size, I mark that with either a marker or my glow line tape, but that way I'm always sure to be getting on the right lines. So my strips were cut for a 4-inch unit, 2 3/4 inches wide. Now let me show you how we cut the trapezoid shape. You can either open your strips, you sometimes will get an extra trapezoid if you cut them open, or you can leave your strips folded together. But whatever you do, if you leave them folded together, make sure you start at the open end and work toward the fold. If you are right-handed, you will start with the open end of a folded strip on your left and work from left to right. If you happen to be a lefty, you would flip that around so that your open end is on the right, and you will cut then from right to left. And I'll try to make sure to point those out throughout the course of this video. But I'm right-handed, so I'm laying my strip this way. The open end is here. To cut the trapezoid, this is when you're going to need to consult the chart. And when I look at the chart, and I look at it's listed here, and it's the bottom horizontal line. That's the line on the tool that I'm going to place on the bottom of the strip. For my 4-inch unit, my bottom horizontal line on my tool is the 5-inch. That 5-inch line goes on the base so that when I go to trim them, I can trim this way and this way for that first cut and end up with an oversized trapezoid, because you know everything Studio 180 is slightly oversized until it's built, and then we trim it down. After you have that first round of trapezoids, you can then rotate your tool. The bottom horizontal line now goes at the other end of the strip. The cut edge lines up here, and you make your cut going in that direction. And you would just continue working down until you have all the trapezoid shapes that you need for your project. Now to cut the cap or the triangle section of the cap 60 units, you're going to be using the exact same processes that you use when you're cutting the side triangles or the companion triangles with a set of instructions. You'll be placing the little tiny tip that's at the top of the triangle on the top edge of your strip. And then what you're going to be doing is placing the 2 3/4 inch line on this here. 2 3/4 inches, you know what? That's the size this strip is. So your horizontal guideline will always correspond to the width of your strip. So 2 3/4 here, the top mark at the top of the strip. You make your cuts this way and this way. And once you have that done, you can then work your way down doing the same thing. Put the 2 3/4, the size of your strip, on the one edge and the small line right there. Now there is another way you can do this. Instead of rotating the rulers, one of the things that I kind of like to do, and you might just want to try this, is after I make that first cut, that's a comfortable cut for me as a right-hander, what I do instead of rotating the ruler, sometimes I'll just flip the strip over. This is an option. I like to do this so that I'm always working with the ruler in the same orientation. Either one will work to either rotate the tool or flip the strip, but in the instructions we talk about rotating the tool. So it's your choice. So once you have your triangles cut and your trapezoids cut, it's time to stitch them together. You have two options here. The triangles actually have a crop top. In the instructions, one of the easy ways to get the triangle centered over the trapezoid is to take that cropped top and flip it over and place it against the angled edge of the trapezoid. That's going to automatically center your triangle over your trapezoid. But if you don't do that and you happen to just flip this over, what you're going to want to make sure to do is take a look at the other side. You're going to want to center those two pieces, the triangle and the trapezoid, more or less. Remember, everything's oversized, and then stitch those pieces together. And when I stitch those, you can bet I always do that in a chain piecing fashion. Now, once your pieces are stitched, it's time to determine which way you want to press those. And that I change my mind on quite a bit. Sometimes I will press toward the dark. You have that option. Sometimes I will press toward the tip. In this case, it happens to be light. And sometimes I find I like to press things open. If I'm just doing design play, pressing open really allows me to match my seams a little bit better because I'm not sure what's going to go with what, so I don't end up with bulky seams. But it's your choice, either toward the trapezoid, toward the triangle, or press them open. So once your stitching is done, once your pressing is done, it's time to trim these units. And this is a little tricky, but it's not hard at all. Remember at the beginning I said I was making a 4-inch finished unit. When I go to trim the base, which is the bottom long edge of that trapezoid, what I'm going to be looking at on my tool are these diagonal diamond guidelines. I'm making a 4-inch unit, so it's going to be one of these two lines that's going to be placed on the sewn seam. I only have one sewn seam, and when I do that, when I set this up like this, and I place, here's my 4, there's the guideline, place it right up on that sewn seam, that's going to be trimming that base exactly the right measurement to make a perfect size cap 60 unit. Now to trim the tip, what I'm going to do is go back to my chart. And the chart will tell me that my triangle point trim line is 2 1/4. And what I'm going to be looking at is not the diagonal diamond guidelines. For the tip, I'm looking at these horizontal guidelines. 2 1/4 is what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is position that 2 1/4 inch guideline here. And you see where the centering is going to be pretty close because we didn't build in a whole lot of excess on these edges right here. So when you place that 2 1/4 inch guideline on the seam, you're going to find that there's very little trim down, which reinforces that need to get those two pretty closely centered when you're building them in the first place. And that way, you're going to have a perfect size unit that you can team up with other different colored units, other different cap 60 units. You can team it up with star 60 units. You can team that unit up with simple companion triangles. And if you look at a bunch of the shapes that are behind me, you're going to see how interesting this cap 60 unit can be by itself in different blocks. This is one by itself. This is a border, just cap 60 units. These are just cap 60 units. These are combinations of the cap 60 unit with a companion triangle, the cap 60 units with a star 60 unit. And then when you start to put more units together, you can't even hardly tell where the cap 60 units are. But if you're looking up here, everything that's in green is a cap 60 unit. Everything that is blue is one of those basic units that come from your star 60 tool. So I hope you're going to consider putting this cap 60 technique sheet into your inventory, and I hope you start making it and teaming it up with your units to build some of the most fantastic 60-degree blocks that you can imagine. So take care, everybody. Look for this at your local quilt shop first. If they don't have it, come directly to us and we'll get it in your hands as soon as possible.